Hey guys, it's Barb with Inspire Me 360, and I woke up in such an amazing mood this morning, and I was getting so much information, so many downloads, and I actually wanted to do a video about how this process works. And again, the word download is a little bit of a strange word, but it makes sense in terms of our modern knowledge and understanding how computers download, or essentially we upload this information into our consciousness. So again, it is kind of a strange term, but it just makes sense in terms of a teaching word form. So I'm just going to leave it at that. Now, in terms of getting universal downloads, or what is a universal download, what is a correct absorption of that higher knowledge, and sometimes what are, I would tend to say, downloads where we're really putting a lot of our three-dimensional layering onto it. So I'm going to give a few examples and try to help guide you through deciphering the types of knowledge that you're receiving, because of course the brain and the consciousness is always pinging to all of the information that is around it in terms of its experiential information gathering, as well as assimilating all of the different past, present, future timelines that we're integrating into sort of our now experience. So for me, when a spiritual download happens, it is something that is very out of the blue normally. It's instantaneous and its speed is super rapid. This is how I know I'm not really forming my own thoughts. It's so fast that I can hardly scribble it down. Again, it's like I have to put my hand on the paper and it just comes out of me. I'm not thinking about it. I didn't ask for it, but there is this knowing of, or this voice saying, write this down. You need to make sure that you capture this, and this is something that you're supposed to talk about and teach about. Again, it's super rapid. It's not something that in the moment I could even speak. It's coming into my consciousness that quickly. Okay. And that's an experience I had this morning. It was this experience of a ton of downloaded information. And usually what I find is when I'm integrating this information, it's super helpful as well to my own consciousness. So it's like I'm having a door unlocked for me that I haven't previously looked into in terms of that universal knowledge. When there is an intense knowing of it or remembrance, I also get chills up and down my body. So it's like a total body vibrational experience, and it's paired with a tremendous amount of like happiness or joyful energy. It just, again, it really solidifies that it is truthful information. And from that love light energy perspective, you really feel it as a total body experience. When you are integrating truth, you just know that it is that unifying principle. You know that it is in its most correct form, being where you can perceive it from. So again, we are all at different levels of perception. No particular level is the most correct, because of course we're all on a learning path. It's like saying, is a 7-year-old more correct or more beautiful than an 11-year-old? No, they're both at different stages, and each stage offers its own catalyst for growth, its own opportunity for lessons, and of course its own opportunity to live the experiential experience. The experience of living is a beautiful divine gift. So sometimes it's kind of taught that we are here to leave the karmic system, to get to the final destination, that we want to return home to source. And that a lot of light workers, or a lot of spiritual individuals and gurus, teachers and masters, will sometimes, because they're presenting so much spiritual knowledge, it's almost taught that we are supposed to abandon the life experience, or we're not supposed to find joy in the life experience. But the experience of creation and having a body and being incarnated is a beautiful experience as well. And don't discount that. Don't shut yourself off from that connection and that joy and adventure and all of the amazing parts of living. Yes, there are parts of living that are difficult. There is suffering. There is, anxiety, fear, depression, ups and downs. But there's also a lot of beautiful highs and a lot of beautiful moments in the journey. And those beautiful moments are just as important as, if not more important, than the difficult stuff. We talk about the difficult stuff because, again, that's usually what each and every soul is grappling with, and what we have to kind of move through. Those are the lessons. Those are that is the pressure that is being enacted on our soul, so that it is creating a more beautiful, brilliant light of what your unique soul blueprint can, out express, essentially. Okay, what else was on my list here? Okay, in terms of downloads, you can also ask for the information. Okay, so there's nothing wrong with reaching out to the divine and stating very much so that you have these questions, you are seeking, you want to know these answers. And essentially that is the mechanism of prayer. So what is prayer? Prayer is a wish that your heart is making. It should be, okay? It's that deep asking for knowledge or for abundant loving energy. There are proper ways, certainly, that calibrate more highly of how we can pray or how we can ask. And of course, the asking or the prayer should always be paired with immense reverence and gratitude for what you've already been given. Because, again, thinking of it like a parental experience, if a child is just continually coming to you asking and never appreciating the role that you're playing as, again, the divine mother or the divine father, you would still tend to be a little bit frustrated with, because the asking is becoming a little bit selfish. It's not taking into account all of the pieces that go into creation and everything that it takes for this beautiful universe, for the out manifestation of what we see, and just the level of organization that it takes to for a universe to exist. So when you are unawake, or if you are praying or asking in a very three-dimensional asleep fashion, you're going to find that your prayers are very flat. It's almost like a repetitive, robotic, okay, I'm supposed to pray, so I'm going to ask. But again, when I was doing it when I was a younger child, I did it because my grandparents asked me to, or I did it because I went to church and they said that, you should say your prayers every night. And of course I was asking for good things. I wanted my family to be safe, and I wanted, planet Earth to be, at peace, and all of the things that young children ask for. But I wasn't asking in a really concrete, loving, heartfelt way. I was just repetitively making these requests, and they weren't heartfelt. Now I understand that when I'm going to use the mechanism of prayer or divine asking, it really needs to come from the bottom of my soul, and it needs to be a desire that is felt throughout my entire being and emanating specifically from my heart space. So I can actually feel the living question or the living prayer. And this is the state where, again, when you ask in this way, you will get these divine answers and these downloads. And sometimes the question is answered almost immediately right when you ask it, And then sometimes it's answered in a very applicable way. So I find that the quantum field, the divine matrix, the out-manifested universe or world that we see will answer these questions in an example. So it will be a group of individuals, it will be an experience, it will be something that is very teaching for you. This beautiful example that answers the original direct question that you asked, but in such a visceral way. And then usually you have these aha moments where you're like, okay, that's what I was asking the universe for. Wow, this is so beautiful. Not only did I get a download or these signs and synchronicities, but I actually got a real life example. And the way that I can integrate this into my soul's journey is so incredibly profound. And when those magical moments, those mysterious moments happen, where again, the universe is kind of doing almost this cinematic dance to so accurately teach you or give you the answer, it's those beautiful confirmative moments when we know that there is a divine order in place. There is something beyond our current understanding, beyond our three-dimensional perceived knowledge of the body and the five senses, where we really have to sit back and go, okay, there is this other, there is this source, this spirit that is guiding each and every one of our spirits home. And when I say guiding home, as I spoke of earlier, I don't mean that we have to leave planet Earth, or the point is that we should not be in love with our life. The very point is that we are to fall in love with our life, that we are to fall in love with every single other being that we experience in our three-dimensional world, that we are to love it so much and protect it so much so that that is within and of itself our gift back to God, to the divine, to everything that is. It's when we are showing up in our beautiful brilliance that is protecting others, lifting others up, loving in every single way we can, that we become essentially the living prayer ourselves. And this is not an easy task. This is not something that, especially in terms of really the diversity that we're experiencing here on planet Earth between the light and the darkness, it's not an easy thing to always show up in this way. So practice makes perfect, and the more that we start to study these principles and the more that we apply them in our everyday lives, we become stronger and stronger spiritually. And we also become that light that touches others. And again, it needs to be, or the highest expression of that energy is unconditional love. It is looking at any other and being able to love them completely, despite all of the distortions they may be carrying, despite all of the messy energy that they may be holding within their body, mind, spirit complex in this current time-space reality. And the now that you're experiencing them, you see past it, you see what they could be, you see you break down the darkness that is out expressing. And I don't want to teach darkness in terms of judgment, okay? Because sometimes we have, and even myself, I've done this in the past, I've had that energy of, okay, I'm very spiritually knowledgeable, so therefore I'm going to look at this and I'm going to look at that and I'm going to be above it and I'm very righteous. And it is okay in some instances to teach in this way, but there should always be a mild retraction of also reminding the other that a correction of their behavior would help to decrease that distortion, would help to guide them back to that straight and narrow path. And again, this is difficult, like any parent can perceive. When you have a child, when you're trying to guide that child and teach them right from wrong and teach them the most correct way to live a beautiful life, it's a difficult position to be in. And in and of that, even the child that is in front of you is going to teach you and mirror back things to you that are incredibly insightful and beyond even what your knowledge is. Because with every birth, there is a new knowingness. With every individual that is bringing their unique blueprint, their unique frequency, in and of that frequency, there is a learning, there is a gift. So we do have to walk a very fine line when we are integrating knowledge and when we are integrating all of the things that we are learning, and when we are circling back to try and find this equilibrium and dissolution of distortion. Learning unconditional love is the last lesson, but it's the longest lesson and the most difficult lesson because it has so many intricacies. And it's certainly one that I can attest that I have not learned in its completion by any means, but it is still a worthy lesson that I keep going back to the well. I keep trying to drink up that knowledge and trying to figure out a way that I can assimilate the best possible framework into my own being, into my own aura. And I think it's a worthy path. So I'm going to stop this video. I'm going to wrap it up. But in terms of downloads that you're receiving, not everybody's going to receive this kind of spiritual knowledge, but you'll definitely know if it's something that you are receiving. I will put a little caveat into the end of this video. If you are using any kind of substance, whether it is natural or whether it is synthetic, chances are, well, pretty much always, the divine is not going to deliver you a totally undistilled message if you are viewing it through the lens or through a lens of a substance. Now, you might get pieces of it, and certain avenues or arenas within your consciousness may be opened, but remember that this is the lock and key. Any kind of drug or any kind of substance that is changing the normal semblance of your consciousness, although it might be helpful on your spiritual path, it is giving you oftentimes more information than you are ready to integrate. The divine decides when it's going to portion out what you need to learn. When you utilize any kind of substance, you are taking more than your portion before you're really actually divinely given. Okay, so I'm not saying don't do, spiritual drugs, ayahuasca, or, mushrooms, or marijuana, or any kind of synthetic drug as well. I don't really prescribe to drug use. However, every once in a while, I will, have a little bit of a joint, or I sometimes will microdose magic mushrooms in certain periods of my life. But I'm talking a very microdose. And what I experienced when I have utilized these tools is it's great in the moment. Sometimes I have some great insights from these sort of consciousness journeys, but I also do not experience these type of downloads in the same way that I do when it's divinely given and it's given when I am ready for it. I actually feel that I have a really kind of a difficult time integrating knowledge that is outside of my wheelhouse of consciousness, that is brought in through the doorway of drug use or utilizing a substance. It's not articulated in the same way. It doesn't have the same profound knowingness, and it doesn't come with the same wave of intense divine energy. And so that is how I know that it's kind of taken out of turn, or it's not necessarily something that I've earned or that I'm meant to teach in the moment. So myself, this is just my journey. Myself, I like to wait for it to come to me when the universe is ready to give it. I'm not making any judgments on anybody that chooses to take spiritual journeys through different substances, through different plants. But again, just a little bit of caution that it can open up doorways within the consciousness that you can not be able to shut as well. And it can give you too much information before you've really rooted yourself in your spiritual groundwork and infrastructure that a lot of times you really need to do before some of these concepts are opened up to you. All right, I'm going to sign off on this one officially, and have a beautiful rest of your day, week, month, year, whenever you're tuning into this. And again, we will see you in the next video.